presentation with some guests from Gun Owners of America to tell us about what's going on with the lawsuits. So to make an introduction, here is Bill Robinson.
Hello, everyone. Well, first of all, our two speakers tonight are, one is Erich Pratt, Executive Vice President of Gun Owners of America. And then our lawyer that's handling our main case here is Stephen Stamboulieh. So Stephen's been working with us since we started. I initially called up Erich and asked him if he would mind joining us in a lawsuit. We have a Second Amendment radio show out of Rochester, New York. We said we're going to start the lawsuit after she signed. You'll see this book later on. 10 different laws that she said Hochul signed. So we said that's it. We can't tolerate this. We've got to go right after it. So we started putting together our package, and I called up Erich Pratt, and Erich Pratt said give him a day or two to talk to the lawyers, and then he called me back and said we got it. We're going for it. So we started the whole. So Erich and I, and then he hired Stephen, and they took it from there. So we appreciate what they're doing. Erich and I got thrown off though. That's the first part of it. We don't have standing. So, but anyway, that's how this whole thing started. And let's go ahead. Anybody, what do you want to do?
Yeah, well, I guess thanks for joining us, guys. You want to go ahead and just say hi so we can make sure the volume's right? Are you guys there?
Yep. I'm here.
Okay,
good to see you, everybody.
Okay, so we have great volume. We have had Erich in the past. He came to our banquet last year. Thanks for that. And Stephen, you're new to our federation. Thanks for joining us also. If you guys give us just give us an overview of where we're at right now, what's coming up on the 20th, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Sure. Do you want me to take this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, my name is Stephen Stamboulieh. I'm an attorney for Gun Owners of America. I'm sure, as you all know, we've got a very big case coming up on March 20th. That Gun Owners and Gun Owners of New York is leading the fight to basically bring the fight to New York. I feel bad for y'all. You know, I'm living in the free state of Virginia at the moment, where we can have 30-round magazines, and wish I could give y'all these as party favors, but I don't really want to be a felon. So anyways, after we sued, you know, the district court gave us a lot of what we wanted. Not everything we wanted, but a lot of what we wanted. So we're basically, if people were carrying right now, and if y'all are, it looks like you're in a restaurant, if they served alcohol there, anyone that's carrying would be basically a felon. So we got that and joined. The district court gave us that, and a number of other things as well. Immediately after we won, as I'm sure you all know, and I'm just preaching to the choir here, but bear with me. The Second Circuit granted a stay, and we briefed all of this. We've already been up to the Supreme Court. Justice Alito and Justice Thomas called what New York has done a serious issue, raising novel First Amendment and Second Amendment concerns, but did not reverse the stay or did not vacate the stay. All of this has been briefed. Hundreds, and actually it's like 1800s of pages have been filed in the Second Circuit. We're arguing it on the 20th. We are hopeful that the Second Circuit sees it our way and affirms Judge Sotheby's 184-page, well-reasoned opinion, and gives y'all some relief. That's basically where we're at right now. We're trying to get y'all some relief.
Okay, so can you tell us about on the 20th? We understand that there's 10 minutes allotted to each of 5 suits. Is that right? And let's also just put out there that you're the Antonyuk case. And I think everyone here is familiar enough with the Antonyuk. But if you could give an understanding of what's going to happen on the 20th, and maybe what other lawsuits are there.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So Gun Owners of America has the Antonyuk case, Antonyuk v. Nigrelli now, because Hochul, who we sued, was dismissed as not having enough relation to the actual enforcement of the Concealed Carry Improvement Act. So she was dismissed from the lawsuit. But we have all of the other defendants, Nigrelli, Oswego County Sheriff and District Attorney, and a number of other defendants. So what's going to happen on the 20th? We have 5 cases that have been expedited and consolidated for a hearing. We're going to go first. We have 10 minutes to present our argument. The state has 10 minutes, and then Chief Cecile, who is the chief of police of Syracuse, also appealed losing in the district court, and so they have 10 minutes. So basically, the state and Chief Cecile each have 10 minutes, and we have 10 minutes. There's 4 other cases among ours. We have Spencer v. Nigrelli, which deals with church carry on First Amendment grounds, Hardaway v. Nigrelli, which deals with private property carry, like so where you're at right now. And then we have Christian v. Nigrelli, which is a Second Amendment church carry case. And then we have Gazzola v. Hochul, which is basically the FFL case that Paloma Capana is handling. I'm assuming, I think they all have 10 minutes each side. I haven't looked at the calendar lately, but usually it's longer than 10 minutes. But since there's so many cases being heard on that day, the Second Circuit's trying to jam all of these cases into one hearing after the Second Circuit got our ruling from the Supreme Court in Antonyuk v. Nigrelli, where it said, hey, Second Circuit, y'all need to expedite these cases. And so they consolidated all of them for the purposes of a hearing and are hearing them all on the 20th down in New York City.
Do you like the fact that they're consolidated, or is that not as good?
It doesn't matter to me if they consolidate them or not. I mean, 4 out of the 5 cases have won. Gazzola v. Hochul was the only one that was unsuccessful in the district court. But Spencer, Christian, Hardaway, and of course Antonyuk, my favorite case, we all won in the district court. So the Second Circuit is going to really have to twist themselves into a pretzel to rule against us. But I mean, hey, they might.
Okay, so you actually think that this isn't just a railroad that's going to automatically be a loss and then have to go to Supreme Court. You actually think that we might get a favorable ruling here?
I don't like to predict what the court's going to do. I'm not good at reading court tea leaves, and I think that any attorney that comes out and says that a case is going to go a certain way for sure is either lying or a time traveler, and I'm neither one of those. So I think that we have as good a shot as anybody else with the format and framework that BRUEN has laid out. We followed it 100%. The judge followed it mostly, Judge Sotheby, and Judge Sinatra in the Western District followed it. And so I'm confident, but beyond that, I'm not going to say, well, we have a 50% or a 60% or 30%. Like, that's just not my role here. It's to go out and put the best case forward for the New Yorkers. And that's what we're doing.
Okay, and so either way, even if we get a favorable decision on any or all of these, we would anticipate that the state would then appeal it, or
I guess they could.
It would depend on the ruling.
Yeah, I mean, it always depends on the ruling, and yeah, of course, they have a right to appeal it to the Supreme Court. That would be a really fun brief to write for me when they do appeal it. So yeah, let's hope they appeal it to the Supreme Court.
Okay, and can you explain what's the rationale between having a panel of judges instead of having just one judge?
Oh, okay. So the circuit courts, which are the federal appellate courts, almost always sit in a panel. There's some other, they can rule on motions, a single judge can, but generally they all sit in a panel of 3 judges. They can go what's called en banc, which is the full court, but they typically do full court hearings when there's like a very serious issue, or a panel did something that the full court doesn't like, and they have enough votes to basically overturn what the panel did and then have some kind of alternative holding, or they go en banc to overturn some previous panel decision that they made. But it almost always sits as a 3-judge court.
And we don't find out who the 3 are until that morning, correct?
No, we should find out what the 3 are next Thursday. So some courts do like a 14-day lead up where you'll get the panel assignment, 14 days before your argument. Our argument's on the 20th, which is not this Monday, but next Monday. So we'll have a panel assignment next Thursday at some time. I don't know the exact time, but it should be next Thursday.
Okay, so we have a question from the floor. How important is the 10-minute presentation? Are the briefs important for the basis, an important part of the basis for the judge's decision? Are they? Is that really going to weigh? Is it really going to matter, or is it just kind of like going through the motions?
Well, as an attorney,
Go ahead.
yeah, I like to think that the briefs matter because we spend an awful lot of time on them. You know, as people that are non-lawyers don't understand the amount of time it takes to write, you know, a 60-page, 70-page brief and have record citations and basically compile something out of whole cloth. So, you know, I think that it matters. I think the oral argument matters. And the judges are going to have questions. You know, we don't go in there with the pre-written brief and just sit down and read from our brief, unlike the state's attorney who actually did that in the preliminary injunction hearing. He literally brought in like 50 pages and just read, and that's just boring. No one wants that. So, you know, I think the arguments matter and the briefing absolutely matters.
Do you think that we've had good supporting briefs to support our side of the argument?
The amicus briefs, the friend of the court briefs, yes, I do think that.
Okay, do you think that there were any briefs supported on behalf of the state's perspective that were damaging or particularly stood out as troublesome?
None.
None.
So basically, they're making public policy arguments, which BRUEN and Heller said you don't get to make public policy arguments, and you know, and that's what they do because they know they lose on the law.
Okay, what do you what would be the ideal outcome for you on the 20th? Like, what would be the best case scenario that we could possibly, you know, just get excited about?
Yeah. Well, so let me damper all of your spirits. It's not going to happen on the 20th. You're looking at 3 to 9 months to get a ruling from the Ninth Circuit. So don't expect me to be walking out of court. Well, don't expect me to be walking out of court and you know, Erich Pratt tweet somebody that, hey, look, we just won, because that's not going to happen. But you know what we want and what we've asked for is for Judge Sotheby's opinion to be affirmed and the stay be vacated. You know, and that could mean that you'll carry again in churches, in parks, in zoos, in restaurants that serve alcohol, and a number of other places. Like y'all could travel with your firearms, go to the airport, check a firearm, come down to Virginia, or you know, to the free country.
Okay, but we wouldn't hear back from the court for, you said 3 to 6 months?
It's going to be anywhere 3 to 9 months. It's probably going to be, you know, like 3 is really pushing it, but you know, these courts can move if they want, you know. Okay.
Is there any jockeying in that 3 to 9 months, like more briefs, more filings, more papers? Is there any more jockeying, or is it just hang it up, sit and wait?
Well, it could. It just all depends on the court. We don't, you know, I don't have any inside information. The court can order whatever they want. If they don't think that that we did enough on one point, they can order more briefing. If let's say the Supreme Court issued some opinion in some other type of case that tangentially related to the Second Amendment, which, you know, there's not one, but let's just say they did, then they might order additional briefing on that. But you know, I mean, that's very speculative.
Okay, one more related to our lawsuits here in New York. How aggressive has maybe you're not aware, maybe you can give some light on this. How aggressive has the New York State Police been on enforcing the new laws? Do you have any?
Well, you know, Nigrelli said a month ago that they haven't arrested anybody and they haven't had any complaints. I don't believe that. I don't have any actual evidence that they're arresting people left and right. But you know, it's not just that they're arresting people, it's that they're chilling the exercise of the Second Amendment. And it might be, maybe he's telling the truth, but there's a whole lot of people that don't want to be a felon. And you know, when I come up to New York, I don't carry, number one, because I'm not a resident of New York. I can't get a permit, so I literally have no Second Amendment right there. But you know, even if I did, and they're saying you can't carry in a restaurant, God, it's going to be really tough for me to want to lose my bar license, you know, as a lawyer by committing a felony. And so I think that there's a massive chill in the air, and it's not the weather.
Okay, so let's give Eric a turn here because I think this is something he could probably speak better at. Is you just mentioned you have no ability to carry up here, and I know that one of the issues that gun owners has on the federal level is going after HR 38 or supporting HR 38, which is the Reciprocity Act. So, is there anything you can tell us on that?
Well, we are currently working to get co-sponsors to that. I think the best that we can hope for in this Congress, and by the way, when you're talking about the Congress, it's all about momentum. Think about what the other side did with the Brady Law. Even when they knew they couldn't get it passed, they kept forcing votes. Every year, they forced a vote on the Brady Law, Brady bill, until finally Bob Dole, sadly, one day, kind of sick of it all, said, why don't we just get this behind us? And that's what the left did. They wore them down. And so I don't think we should wait till, quote unquote, we have enough votes to pass it. We're pushing it now. So, Republicans have a majority in the House. That should be enough to bring up the bill for a vote. So we're ultimately going to be pushing for that. Right now, though, we're just working to get more and more co-sponsors. Obviously, the Senate, I don't see a way that we would be able to break the filibuster, which is not to say that we won't try to force a vote on it and get people on record, because that's how you change what's going on in Washington. Is you force votes, get people on record, and then you hold them accountable in their home districts. So anyway, that's where we're at. HR 38, by the way, is a great bill because it would allow people who, even if they can't carry in their own state, or let me put it this way, I'm trying to remember exactly some of the particulars of this. If you can carry in your home state, you can obviously carry in every other state, and it also provides for, actually it's the Senate bill that provides a little bit more freedom, where it protects even the type of pistol that you would use. So, if you have a standard capacity magazine over 10 rounds, that would be protected under the Senate bill. So there were some improvements made in the Senate legislation. But anyway, right now it's just a matter of getting people on the bill and, forcing votes.
Well, you mentioned about maybe not being able to get it passed, but one thing that doing with the Congress, it'll definitely force some people to reveal themselves if they're going to be, pro right side of the aisle and pro Constitution, or if they're just going to kind of slime into the background. Who is the sponsor that you're working with in the federal Senate on that?
Well, there's two actually. One is Cornyn, who has introduced this bill term after term. And we're a bit frustrated with him because he's not pushed the bill. And in fact, last year chose to push gun control and had the audacity to call it a compromise, which all that meant was that they were both Republicans and Democrats supporting gun control. But there was no compromise. Usually in a compromise, both sides get something. Well, if he was truly going to push for a compromise, he could have thrown his version of HR 38 into the bill, which of course would have killed all the post-Uvalde gun control, which would have been wonderful, but he didn't want to do that. So thankfully, there's another senator that's stepping forward. He hasn't introduced it yet. Once he does, I'll be able to tell you who it is. His bill is even going to be stronger, though, than the Cornyn bill. So that's the one that we're really looking forward to.
Okay, so there might also be an opportunity for some collaboration. There's a new bill, or not a bill, a new lawsuit that was filed in New York City I don't have the name of it right off, but it's part of it is about interstate and intrastate concealed carry. So, New York City doesn't allow pistol permits from upstate within the state to, they don't honor that in the city. And so that's part of the lawsuit. I think the biggest part of the lawsuit is the delay and how long it takes for licensure to get the permit process. But I know that part of that is also about reciprocity, not just upstate issues, but also they're bringing into it other states as well. So maybe you have some room for collaboration there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else on reciprocity before we leave that one? Go ahead.
We're also, not really. That's really the most immediate thing. We are actually working on a federal case to challenge the lack of reciprocity. But that, honestly, we've been putting out so many fires from New York to Illinois to Oregon and Biden's executive orders. Unfortunately, that one's taken a little bit of a backseat. But just so you know, don't be surprised if one day you see GOA bringing a challenge to, certainly with our driver's licenses, which aren't even rights, they extend past the borders of our state. So why should our Second Amendment rights, which shall not be infringed, why should they be any less protected than a privilege? So these are just some of the arguments, obviously, that we'll be making. But I'm real excited about some of the things we have in the works, but that's on down the line.
Eric, how many states can we carry now, openly carry it, these states without a pistol permit? And how many more have we won? I know we've been winning some of these states along the way. Can you just give our group here an idea? We've been winning a lot of these. Yeah.
Yes, we have. So 25 states where you can carry without a permit. I guess the closest one to y'all is Vermont and Maine. If you go south, you got to go a ways south. But in terms of open carry without a permit, I believe it's in the mid 30s, and 47 states to some degree or another allow open carry. Right now, we're actually fighting in Florida for constitutional carry, but Florida is one of the 3 states that does not allow open carry. And I know you guys aren't going to cry for them over this because you're one of those states. But New York, Illinois, and Florida are the 3 states where you cannot open carry, except under the most slimmest. In Florida, if you're actively fishing, you can open carry. That's not an everyday occurrence, of course. So, believe it or not, the folks in the Sunshine State are using you guys as hey, we don't want to be lumped in with New York, the New York politicians. So we want open carry added to the permitless carry bill. Our state director, Luis Valdez, drove 3 hours. This was Wednesday or Thursday of last week. 3 hours to get to a Books A Million where the governor was signing books. And so he dutifully bought a book, asked the governor to sign it, and then popped the question, do you support open carry, Governor? And do you support adding it to the permitless carry legislation? Do you think it'll happen? And he called out the legislature. He said, yeah, I support it. I don't think they're going to give it to me. And Luis had that recorded, and that just created a firestorm all through Florida. All the big papers, the Tallahassee Democrat down to the Miami, whatever the Miami paper is, and everything in between. DeSantis supports open carry, calls out legislature. It's amazing what one guy can do. So anyway, that's been pretty exciting. That created a little bit of heat on the legislature. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, I know, for you guys. But to answer your question, Bill, 25 states immediately with full constitutional carry. By full, I mean both concealed and open.
All right. How many lawsuits are you guys in the middle of at this point right now? How many, roughly?
There's probably too many to count.
Okay.
We just filed one in Michigan today, filed a brief. This is actually kind of exciting. It's a after effect of BRUEN, because after BRUEN, the state Supreme Court remanded a case down to the Circuit Court of Appeals and said, hey, in light of BRUEN, your ruling on, or I guess, Steve, correct me, I guess it was the state Supreme Court's ruling on bans on gun bans on universities, which Michigan, ultimately ended up supporting in the courts. But now they're like, hey, in light of what BRUEN said in terms of sensitive places, we have to relitigate this. So we just filed our case today in the Circuit Court of Appeals. So it is exciting. There are some blue states that are seeing what BRUEN said, and they're taking their marching orders. It's a shame that you have some like New York and Oregon and Washington that are basically flipping the bird to the Supreme Court. But, that's okay. They can try to do it, come along peacefully, or we'll drag them by the hair, kicking and screaming. But anyway, that's Michigan. So we filed that today. We're challenging the semi-auto ban in Illinois. We're challenging a huge gun ban in Oregon. We actually got a preliminary injunction. Many groups filed cases there. I mean, it was just a smorgasbord of groups filing cases. We were really blessed that it was our judge that gave us the preliminary injunction, and the state twice tried to take it to the Supreme Court to stay the decision, and twice the Supreme Court said, we're not going to do that right now. So for right now, the gun ban is null and void in Oregon. So anyway, that's Oregon as well. Obviously, we're fighting the two executive gun bans that Biden has instituted. One was the gun registry and the ban on selling 80% receivers without a background check. The other one, which, by the way, we have a hearing on March 14th in Minnesota. Stephen will be there for that one. And then we're also challenging ATF's pistol brace ban. We filed that in Texas. To my knowledge, Stephen, there hasn't been any date set for that one, right? So that's those are probably some of the bigger cases, Bill, that we're dealing with. I mean, there's a slew of others, but those are probably the big ones that people might have heard about.
Go ahead. Yeah. So okay. So there was a question about the pistol brace ban. So really, there's just not much to report on that right now. We're just kind of sitting in limbo, waiting.
Right. Yeah, there hasn't been a date set. We filed in Lavaca County, Texas. For what it's worth, it was assigned to a judge that, boy, I guess you could say we could have done a whole lot worse, right? That's probably putting it mildly. Yeah, there's really not much to report on that right now.
Okay. Any other questions from the room right here? Okay, guys. I think we've exhausted everybody.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Last month you said that it was catching on throughout the state, and a lot of people were mimicking what we did, the match program.
Okay.
So where are we with that?
Okay, we can talk about that in a little bit. That we can let these guys. They don't really have anything on that. Well, I guess we can just make an announcement to you guys. We've been working really hard here to raise funds to support the case, and I think initially the bulk of our support was channeled towards GOA US, if you will, and then when Gazzola came along, we kind of got the idea that it was best to let the rest of the country fund Antonyuk and direct our funds towards Gazzola. So that's where we've put the bulk of our energy here in the last part of since this year. Do you have any reflection on if there are people that are actually coming alive, that are jumping, that are pushing back, that are getting excited, that are getting waking up, I guess, or is it just kind of lackluster? What do you guys feel on that?
Well, one thing I see, and I'll take this, Stephen. I've got the benefit of, we've got state directors all over the country, regional directors, and that is precisely one of the things that I am hearing from the grassroots, from our directors. And let me just say, Stephen and Rob do a fantastic job for us. We couldn't be more blessed with the attorneys that we have, and I get to read all their briefs. Thankfully, I'm glad I didn't go 3 years in law school, but I probably took enough law classes to make me dangerous. So, kind of in God's providence is good, because I understand the stuff they're writing, and they write really good stuff. And, the exciting thing is that we've been winning a lot of cases coast to coast. And so, I'll just give you one example. Our regional director who covers Washington, and I won't say the name of the company, but it was a gun company, not specifically gun making, but gun accessories and that type of thing. And the owner had told his employees, we're just going to keep our heads kind of under the radar. We're not going to speak out. We're not going to get involved politically. Well, when they saw our win in Oregon, just to the south of them, they were so blown away. They told our director, you know what? When I saw that, I told my crew, I was wrong. We've got to fight. We do need to get involved. And so that's resulted in contributions, but also trying to get people activated. So, it's an exciting thing that victory breeds victory. And, BRUEN, Heller, McDonald, and now BRUEN have just been such game changers. I want to encourage you guys. I know it's tough because you're behind enemy lines, and the politicians there are really resisting. But, remember, there are Brown versus Board of Education. This is not a gun issue, but when segregation was declared unconstitutional by the court. We forget now, years later, but for about a period of 10 years, there were states and certainly many localities that resisted that U.S. Supreme Court decision. And so for 10 years, it looked like, hey, are they going to get away with it? Ultimately, we know they didn't. And so sometimes, there are some pockets of the country that lag behind in being brought into line. It takes a little time, a little effort, some of this, but ultimately, I feel very hopeful that it's going to be like that court case, Brown versus Board of Education, where, they may come kicking and screaming, but we're finally going to bring them into line.
Can we go back to Stephen for a minute? Stephen, give us the wrap up. What are you trying to get for us the 20th? What are you going for now? What are we down to now? What are you trying to get? I know you said it passing, but
severed head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can say it really quickly in one word, not, it's freedom.
Right.
I want to get back what y'all had prior to BRUEN. The Supreme Court eliminated proper cause. You're not supposed to have less rights after BRUEN than you had prior to BRUEN. And that's kind of the whole theme of what GOA has been pushing this whole time. It's New York has come out and retaliated against the citizens of New York because they disagree with the Supreme Court. And there's nothing they can do about what the Supreme Court did. There's nothing they can do. So they're taking it out on you. And that's what we're trying to get back for you. We challenged a number of provisions. We didn't challenge the schools, and we didn't challenge carrying in government buildings, courthouses, and some of the things that are, obviously sensitive per Heller and per BRUEN. But the rest of the stuff, the rest of the places that y'all could carry ever since New York has been a state, shouldn't be magically removed because Kathy Hochul has her little panties in a twist. So we're going to try to get that back for you.
Guys, they use our tax money to pass these bills. They use our tax money to fight back against us, and we have to, somehow find a way to pay for the lawsuits as well.
Yeah.
And so, we're really counting on you guys. And next time we see you, I imagine you'll have a Superman cape on and a big S or something like that.
Well, the Second Circuit, I'm not sure if they live stream them, but they definitely audio stream these arguments. And, I would invite all of you, either come down to New York City, which I don't know if y'all want to, but, come watch the argument or at least listen to it. This stuff directly affects you. And it's important to hear all these various arguments because you have a lot of lawyers that are going to be descending on New York in Manhattan or wherever this court is, to argue and why New York citizens should have the right to carry it that you had prior to BRUEN. I mean, it's just crazy to me.
Well, we can't speak for the rest of the state, but here in Ulster County, we are working hard to support you guys to make this fight. So go for it. And thanks for taking the time to meet with us tonight and tell us what's going on.
Thank you all.
If nothing else, we'll just give a round of applause there. Thanks, guys. Good luck and go get them.
Well, we're very grateful to you all, and we're very grateful for the contributions that you guys have given to help this case along. So, we're in this together. Thanks so much.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, hey, be safe and have a good night, all right?
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Good job, Elmer.